ahead of Game Week 20, we all get our second wildcard chips available. And you might be thinking about using that chip already. And in this video, I've got not one, but two different wildcard drafts to talk you through. Okay, let's get right into this. So the draft I'm about to take you through is expected to get 67.9 points in Game Week 20 and comes with a 96% AI rating. You can get your wildcard drafts reviewed and the expected points data below the players using Fantasy Football Hub. You can sign up to Fantasy Football Hub using my link in the description. So first up then, I've got the goalkeeper and defenders and the bench of this wildcard draft. This is draft number one. I'm going to take you through two in this video. I've gone for a Nottingham Forest double up in defence, purely because, well, I think Sells is one of the best goalkeepers in the game. He and Nottingham Forest are probably the second or third best defence in the league, either on par or just behind Liverpool and Arsenal. And Sells is a goalkeeper that not only keeps clean sheets, but also makes a good amount of saves. And for me, what you want in a goalkeeper is one that can do both rather than one or the other. So Sells is in. I am a little bit concerned about that Liverpool at home fixture in Game Week 21. But I think just the nature of FPL goalkeepers, you should probably just pick one and stick with them. It's a mistake that I've made this season, chopping and changing my goalkeepers around. So even if he does have a tough fixture mixed in, I would just ride it out. And I think, to be honest, even if he doesn't keep a clean sheet against Liverpool, which, by the way, he did in the reverse fixture at Anfield, he could get a decent amount of saves, save a penalty. You know, anything could happen, right? So I wouldn't be too worried about playing him in the Liverpool fixture. And I'm not sure if he'll be back fit in that time, but I've gone for Fabianski on the bench. You can see you might be able to start him for that fixture if you want. I've gone for Milenkovic. Same reason as Sells, obviously, with Nottingham Forest being one of the best defences in the league. But when you look at the Nottingham Forest defenders from an attacking point of view, the one that is putting up the best underlying data from an attacking perspective is Milenkovic. And with Aina being, well, he is the highest scoring defender in the game at the moment, but with him being 5.2 million, I think you may as well save yourself, well, $500,000 now and go for Milenkovic, the one with the better attacking data. And, you know, they do have that tough fixture in 21, but you've got Huijsen on the bench, or Huijsen, however you want to pronounce it, on the bench. You could start him instead, or Greaves as well against Brighton. So there's some bench options there. And if you have enough cash in the bank, you know, what I've done is I've put together this team so that anyone watching this video should be able to afford it. But you might have a little bit extra cash in the bank. So you could go for someone like Lewis Hall, Munoz of Crystal Palace on that first bench defender spot if you really wanted to. Gabriel and Trent as my other two defenders. I think by far and away these guys are the two best defenders in the game. Both offer really good, I'd say, attacking data as well as potential for keeping clean sheets. You know, there is a bit of speculation going around at the moment about Trent joining Real Madrid. Do you really think Trent's going to join Real Madrid in January? I think that speculation is going to continue all the way into the summer, to be completely honest with you. And he's going to stay in the Liverpool team. You know, I think him and Gabriel are the two best defenders in the game. Like I said, both teams keeping clean sheets and both players offering attacking threat. Gabriel, I mean, pretty much every game I see him play for Arsenal, he has a chance of scoring from a set piece. Trent has not been quite as good as previous seasons, I would say, from an attacking perspective, but those fixtures coming up, I think, are really nice for opportunities for clean sheets as well as attacking returns. So that's the starting back four: Sells, Milenkovic, Gabriel, and Trent. In the midfield then, I've gone for the big two. I call these the big two because for me, these are my two favourite midfielders in the game. In whatever wildcard draft I make would have these two players in it, Salah and Palmer. And I also think, I'm not going to call the captaincy on this video, but I think Salah is by far and away the best captain for 20. If you're wildcarding, you're going to want to bring him in ahead of Man United at home, or at least keep him if you still got him. Palmer has been a bit hit and miss in recent game weeks, but you just look at the midfield options available in the game at the moment, and I just don't see a team that doesn't have him in it. So I've gone for Cole Palmer. When you look at the fixtures, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth and Wolves, you know, he's got a real chance of some returns there. Yeah, he's been not quite as consistent as Salah in terms of returns this season, but across, well, 2024 is over now. But when you look at the totality of FPL points scored by players in the year 2024, despite Salah breaking records at the start of the season, Palmer is still ahead of Mo Salah in terms of total points. So, you know, that just suggests how good of an asset Cole Palmer is, right? Both past and present tense. So I've gone for him. And then I went for Mbeumo and Gordon as my other two midfielders. This might be a little point of contention, but Mbeumo, I think, He might have been at times this season disappointing, but ever since I sold him, he seems to have not been disappointing and has played really well. I think I sold him in game week 14, something like that. Ever since then, I think he's scored in every game. He's got Southampton and Man City as his next 2 fixtures, which actually on the face of it, you'd suggest are not the easiest. Well, sorry, you would suggest the Man City one might not be the easiest. Forgive me. Southampton was obviously a good fixture, but actually Man City, if you look at their defensive record over the last couple of months, they are the bottom team, the number 1 worst team in the Premier League for expected goals conceded. So I would not be worried about having Mbeumo for that fixture. The one that would worry me a little bit is that Liverpool at home game. But we all know how well Brentford can play in the tough fixtures. Proven, Mbeumo's just scored against Arsenal, right? And then I've gone for Anthony Gordon. Newcastle on really good form at the moment. Both him and, spoiler alert, I'm going to have Isak in this team. Both him and Isak performing really well. Next fixture is Tottenham. Then he's got Wolves and Bournemouth after that. I think that's a few really nice fixtures coming up for Newcastle. And I just think, I'm looking at the midfield demographic in FPL right now, and I think you've got Salah, Palmer, the cheap ones like Rodgers, Semenyo, Ahmad. There's others, Iwobi, players like that. And then you've got a couple, I would say here, sort of mid-price midfielders that are still doing well in Mbeumo and Gordon. So you might get an idea of some of the other players I've picked on the other team. But yeah, that's the 4 midfielders for this draft. I didn't pay much attention to it previously, but I have picked Morgan Rogers in this team, and I think you can do so benching him this week, because what picking him allows you to do in this draft allows you to do is have 1 rotating attacking player for every game. And I still think Rogers is the best budget midfielder in the game. He is suspended for game week 20, but I still think he's the best player of this price point. So I've gone for him in the team, and because I've gone for another striker in Raul Jimenez, 5.5 million, I think you can get away with benching Rodgers this week. And week on week, there's probably one of those midfielders that you consider benching. In fact, I would say you could almost keep Morgan Rogers on your bench for 21 and 22 if you really wanted to. I've gone for Raul Jimenez. You could also go for João Pedro if you wanted to, but I just feel like Raul Jimenez has got more goals in him than João Pedro does. He's still starting regularly for Fulham. He hasn't taken one yet, but I do believe he's going to be the penalty taker for Fulham when they do eventually get one in the Premier League. Ipswich, West Ham and Leicester is his next 3 games. I think those are three really nice fixtures. And like I said, you could also go for João Pedro. Personally, I think I prefer Jimenez. Isak is probably the best striker in the game right now, in the league as well right now, I'd say. Tottenham away in 20, then Wolves and Bournemouth, same obviously fixtures as Gordon. I think those are great fixtures. And especially against Tottenham, I think he could do some real damage. And then I went for Chris Wood. I love Chris Wood. I've just brought him into my team. And I think of all of the strikers in the game, I'd actually say, just thinking about it, he's probably the second best striker in the game right now behind Isak. Maybe even ahead of Haaland. Certainly on value, at least, he's ahead of Haaland. So, first wildcard draft, Sells, Milenkovic, Gabriel and Trent, Salah, Palmer and Mbeumo, Gordon, Raul Jimenez, Isak and Wood. And on the bench, I've got Fabianski, Howson, Rodgers and Greaves. And like I said, this team I've picked should be affordable for pretty much anyone. So if you're in a more positive position in terms of your budget in FPL, you might be able to upgrade some of these players. You may, if you wanted to, go from Raul Jimenez to someone like Wissa, or obviously João Pedro. And you may want to upgrade one of maybe Howson or Greaves just to someone slightly more expensive. I'm thinking you could potentially go Greaves to Castagna, starting for Fulham at 4.2 million, or Anderson, something like that. What I've done is kept this team budget friendly, but there's a couple of places you may want to upgrade if you've got the cash available. Now, the next team I've gone for is, well, I've skimped and saved on other positions, but I've upgraded elsewhere. So what I've got Sells in goal, similar sort of concept, Sells and Milenkovic in defence. And then I've cut down on Trent and Gabriel to allow me to upgrade my attack. So I've gone for Howson and Castagna, and Munoz and Greaves, you can see there as well. I think there's a nice rotation between all 3 of those players week on week, if you wanted to start each of them basically. I think you can get away with having, at the moment, cheaper defenders in the game that rotate nicely with good fixtures, and I think these 5 that I've gone for do exactly that. Midfield, again, I've picked Salah and Palmer because I don't think you can get away with not picking them. And then I've gone really cheap with my other midfielders. I've gone for Semenyo and Jacob Murphy. I think Murphy looks really good at the moment, and to be honest, with the fixtures and form that Newcastle have coming up, and obviously the form that they're in, I think at 5.1 million he is a decent pick. I wouldn't necessarily want to be playing him every week, But I think, as you can see there, with Rodgers in the bench, he sort of rotates quite nicely with Rodgers, although you do have to start Murphy, I would say, for the next few weeks. But once those fixtures turn for Newcastle, you can stick Rodgers in your 11 if you wanted to. I went for Semenyo alongside him. I mean, take your pick as to who your favourite sub-6 million midfielders are in the game. For me, it's Rodgers and Semenyo. For you might like a Iwobi, you might like Ismail Assar, someone like that. Completely up to you, but I've gone for Semenyo. And then skimping and saving on those, or scrimping and saving, I should say, on those other positions allows you to get Haaland in. Now, the reason I would pick Haaland if I was on a wild card, now I'm not saying this is the team you should pick, I'll give you a couple of options just to give you an idea, but I think Game Week 21, when Salah has Nottingham Forest, you're in I think that's a good opportunity to potentially go for someone else as your captain, just given how good Nottingham Forest have been defensively this season. I like the idea of captaining someone else, and I think not many people, I'll be honest, are going to be using their wildcard straight away in Game Week 20. So you're already going to be a differential just in the sense that you're using it. So if you're a differential in that sense, why not be a differential with a captain in a future game week? And I think picking Haaland allows you to do that. And ultimately, in the game right now, this is a point I made earlier, I am not massively excited by all that many attacking options. I think Salah and Palmer in midfield are great. I think Isak and Wood up front. And outside of that, I know I picked not so many. I know I picked Mbeumo and Gordon in the other team. But outside of those players I mentioned, are there any players or attacking players, midfielders and forwards, that are really, really exciting to own right now? And I just think Haaland found a bit of confidence in that Leicester game. And I do think he's going to go on a bit of a goal scoring run. Or at least Man City, I think, are going to go on a run in terms of an attacking perspective. I don't think they're going to become and all that solid defence. But from an attacking perspective, I do think they're going to score goals in their upcoming games. And when you look at the fixtures, I just think Nottingham Forest for Salah, Bournemouth for Palmer, Brentford for Haaland, just with how poor Brentford have been defensively this season, I think Haaland has the better fixture of the three players. So I'll stop blabbering on about captain and Haaland. But I think if you go for this team, it gives you an opportunity to be a bit different with your captaincy in 21. So yeah, a couple of drafts for you there. Alright, well that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. Obviously this is my opinion on the best wildcard draft. You might disagree with some of the picks I made there. And if you do, that's totally cool. Just let me know in the comments if you think there's anything you changed. Just be polite and pleasant about it, I should say, in the comments. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave me a like rating. And if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. Should be just there on your screen. That just leaves me to say, thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to catch you in my next video.